So, yeah, Jairus, what was going on in the marriage that you're like, I'm gonna trust this random stranger to help me save it?
Yeah, yeah, that's always a leap, right? Um, well, um, to start off with, we never actually got married.
Oh,
We were just in a
really?
relationship.
I always make the assumption marriage.
No, no, it's okay. It's okay. I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, sure.
But we lived together. We officially, like, we made our relationship official in 2019, and then when COVID happened, because we'd been friends for like 2 years at work before that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So like we really got to know each other.
That's
And then when COVID happened and everyone was scared and no one knew anything about it, we were like, okay, are we just gonna like be separate and not see each other? Or
mm,
are we gonna like pull this trigger and, move in and figure out how to do this together? So we did. And our kids were in elementary school at the time and we weathered that nicely. And everyone else is freaking out, but for like 2 years we were telling everyone we were having like the best years of our lives. And I think that was true. Like it was true for me. I feel like it was true for her. But we both had prior marriages and our children were from prior marriages. And I was with, you'll appreciate this designation, borderline personality disorder, like officially tested, official diagnosis. And
wait,
then
you were diagnosed with that, or your previous
my
partner,
ex-wife,
ex-wife was wow.
my ex-wife, the mother of my children, 10 years.
Well, I am a part of me wants to dive into that, but we'll stay the course.
Okay. Yeah, there was a lot there. And she married someone who got injured and then addicted to painkillers and then lost an addiction. And we both saw each other as survivors, but about halfway through our relationship, what became clear was what also happened was like in my marriage, I was with someone who wasn't able to adjust themselves to reality well enough to challenge me,
hmm
to make me question my shit and my baggage. And so I left that relationship naively thinking that the problem was all her and I wasn't bringing a whole lot of problem with me into my relationship with Brittany. And she was naively in the same boat, for her. So we both were ill prepared for our baggage and the toxic way that they were related, which was very much, I forget what you call it, but that like pattern that does this. I
Oh, the infinity loop. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw it and I felt it. I didn't, know what to call it or how to describe it, but that was absolutely it. And um, combine that, we had a lot to deal with, but we were actually just figuring it out and starting to level out and starting to do a little bit better when her oldest boy, uh, again, I know that you don't like to use labels, but three separate therapists conveyed to us that he was dealing with oppositional defiance disorder. And that made things difficult. It made everything personal between him and me, even if it wasn't. And she felt like a monkey in the middle until we broke, because that was his goal. Anything the family wanted to do, all he had to do was decide the opposite and
How
create
old
a
was
lot
he?
of stink. And he treated her with such disrespect that I couldn't stand for it. So I would try to jump in the middle.
Got it.
Then I'd be the bad guy.
Yeah, of
And of
course.
course, I was doing a lot of stuff wrong as well. I was the nice guy. I was dealing with or not dealing with, I was living inside of a bunch of covert contracts. I didn't know myself very well. I certainly didn't know my values or that I wasn't living by them. Um, I was taking things personally. It was bad all around.
hmm
And so she moved out last September.
Well, what was that like? Was there like a breaking point conversation, or like because I feel the tension, I hear the tension, but then it led to her leaving. But like, what happened that caused her to, you know?
So let's see here. In April, there was like April of last year, there was a really bad fight between me and her oldest. And even though I apologized, he treated it like I didn't and
Mm,
complained to her and her therapist like I didn't
mm,
and was complaining that he didn't feel safe. And that led to, reports and files and things. There was no like physical altercation, you know. It just became, I don't feel safe, I don't feel safe, I don't feel safe to anyone that would listen. And she got really scared, and I didn't know what to do because even when I apologize, it's just met with like resistance.
Right, right.
It takes two people, you know, willing to meet each other even a little bit to maintain a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it just had an expiration date. And so I shut down when that happened. I'm not proud of it, but I really shut down hard. And Brittany couldn't figure out how to make it work. So after a few months of that and with her therapist, she never once considered moving out. It was her therapist's idea, but she ran with it. It was her right to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting when I hear that stuff from therapists, but anyways, okay, so that's a clear picture on kind of like what led to all this. And yeah, so let's talk about the present moment. Where are you guys at now? What are some of the best wins? What's been going on? Good.
Best wins. Okay. Well, we are in stage five, which, you know, you've identified in the program. We're doing well. We're communicating all the time. I get good morning, I love you texts. I get good night, I love you texts. We talk several times throughout the day. Um, I am seeing a lot of benefit by taking more of the lead in the relationship, scheduling dates, scheduling good opportunities to get together. And she is mirroring that in some really nice ways. She actually, 3 weeks ago, she got us tickets to a candlelight string orchestra that does like remixes of Coldplay songs and other
Pretty cool.
songs. Yeah,
I've
like
seen
Black Tie.
the ads for those. Yeah, it's really sounds.
Yeah, Black Tie sort of thing. Like that was super cool.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see her initiate that. And you know, we're making plans, we're talking about our future. We've got some vacations planned together that we're both excited for. And the one I talked to you about on the call, the solo trip,
Yeah.
that was huge.
Yeah.
That was huge. I actually didn't specifically plan it to be a solo trip because at the time I planned it, like things for us started slow, but when they took off, they started to really take off. And so right about at this point when things started feeling a little bit better, but she was very much in that dual mindset, kind of back and forth. I wanted to schedule a trip. I really wanted that, you know, because when she was feeling good, she'd talk about taking trips and things like that, but I didn't know how she'd feel when the time actually came to pull the trigger.
Hmm.
So I decided to schedule a trip that was completely paid for, and all she had to do was decide to go or not. And if
Hmm.
she went, great. If she didn't, great. Because it
Hmm.
was a trip that I was really excited about. And I knew that she would enjoy it if she went,
Yeah.
but there was zero obligation.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So that was that trip to Cancun, Mexico. And at first she said yes. And then 2 weeks later she said no. And she kind of yo-yoed back and forth. And then it became no, like I actually can't. Um, Turns out she had a couple other obligations that she wanted to hold. And that was her right to do it. You know, I wasn't going to tell her, you know, don't fulfill your obligations. Come with me.
Right. Exactly.
So,
Well, that might have worked, but yeah.
so I went and it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I had been working on myself for quite a while. I was feeling great. I was getting out, and I can't tell you the number of times I found myself in a group of people that could not speak English, and we were all just vibing. Like it was really good. The apps they have now for like translation work really well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, they work really
Awesome,
well.
man. Yeah. So, well, I mean, we'll start there, sure, because I never talk about that. I mean, it's in the program, but I never talk about it like a lot, like in the public
Just
marketing.
kind
And
of mentioned. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, for you, then why was that such a positive experience in your growth?
One of the brightest points in my life was college.
Mm,
I I wasn't like in a clique or a group. I just bounced around with whoever, whenever, wherever,
yeah.
and I just vibed with everybody, and it was phenomenal.
Hmm.
Um, it was really bright, probably for that reason, just because I could just fit in with whomever. It was pretty effortless. I had come from like a really small town, not a lot of connections,
Hmm.
and suddenly being around, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people. Which, for the record, this was Multnomah Bible College.
Okay.
So it was like a curated selection of people as opposed to like a public college.
Yeah.
And we all just got on. It was like 400 students. And we all got on really well. So that was really good. And so going on this trip, that happened by accident, I'll say, because like I was just on my own. I didn't have any connections or ties. I was just being me. This was me being me because I intentionally did that work and created that for myself.
Mm.
And seeing seeing the power of that. Because between being with a borderline for like 10 years and how isolating that was,
Mm.
and then COVID and being isolated and seeing this next relationship break and start to fail,
Mm.
like that was the lowest I'd ever been, was when Brittany moved out. That was the lowest I'd ever been. Not actually when she moved out, but a few months after that when she started talking to another guy. That's what did it. That's what precipitated me joining the program.
Okay.
I hit
Nice.
my wall. Honestly, I would have lost my job if I wouldn't have had some grounding force and sense of direction. I was non-functional.
Yeah. That is the low point that a lot of guys hit that cause. So there's a quote that I've been hearing a lot lately that actually someone said to me earlier today, which is from Rumi. I put it on the group call, so maybe you'll remember, but um, the wound is where the light enters you, right? That
Yeah,
crack
yeah.
in, right? And yeah, I mean that had to happen, right? And so going back to the original prompt that I gave you about like that solo trip, is a part of it like being with yourself and being good with yourself helped heal that and like, oh my, I can be good with me, even though when I go to a random country with random people I don't even talk to, it's like I'm gonna be okay. Did it give you that sense, or was there something else going on as well?
I would say that's absolutely true. Um, and being in that kind of environment gave me the freedom to get that feedback from other people.
Right.
Like just showing up being myself and having other people like appreciate me that much.
Yep.
Like I've got, not everyone has these, those 360 cameras.
Yeah.
I have one of those, and so I was doing a bunch of stuff with it. And
Nice.
the first trip I went on, a gal like paid for half of my stuff that day in exchange for the photos from that because she wanted them for her and her friend who turned 40. And like she wanted all those photos. So like I got that stuff paid for. I connected with another guy who I'm 40 years old. His son is 40. So he and I connected really well, and he ended up buying all my stuff that day when we went to Chichen Itza, big long day trip. Um, yeah, just bouncing myself authentically off of other people without, you know, without the nerves, without the self-consciousness
Yeah.
getting in the way.
And I think more than anything, it's like someone paying for your stuff shows just how much value you're just giving by just being yourself. You see that? See what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
I
powerful, man.
do. Just an authentic exchange. Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple other things that happened across the relationship. You mentioned like the being the nice guy paradigm a little bit. How did you feel like you addressed that across this program and on your journey?
Well, the book did wonders. The book just opened my eyes. Became the meat and potatoes of my first two CLC letters,
Okay. Yeah.
which were really pivotal in getting me out of stage one. Because at that point, we were barely talking. And that
Yeah.
was tough going, someone I'd been with nearly every day for 7 years to not talking or speaking a word back and forth for weeks at a time. Like, you can't know how much that hurts till it happens.
Yeah. True. True
Yeah.
word.
But being
Walk,
able to
walk
see
me.
that, articulate it, address it in the letters was received so well. Like taking ownership, taking accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you made sure that there was no obviously like covert contract or like attachment within those letters. I'm assuming it was just like raw, authentic, like this is what's been going on, why I've been doing what I'm doing.
Yes. Yes. And I made use of my resources. I ran it by Um, each letter I ran by two brothers in the program.
Nice.
I think you know who Near is.
Yeah, I do.
He helped me a lot, and Carlos,
Nice.
pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And so I guess so before we go back into maybe another area that you identified to help overcome, what was that? You said you got out of stage one. Like, what were the signs that you were progressing with, or what was going on that externally you could tell you were making progress?
Well, at the start, it didn't feel like progress.
Mm,
But in retrospect, actually, it at the start when she started to reach for me a little bit more, it was
mhm.
still with that really like I'm hurt energy.
Yeah.
A lot of like the one that I'll never forget this because we'd been not talking for a long time, but we actually moved from stage one to stage two.
Yeah.
At the time that she sent me a Spotify playlist full of like breakup songs, like Taylor Swift breakup songs and stuff.
Yeah.
But when I communicated that on the forums in the program, a lot of the feedback I got was, well, she wasn't talking to you before and she's talking to you now. So, like, that's the win, right?
And that's something like if you were on your own, like how could you be challenged that way and to know that, right? A lot of,
Yep.
yeah, that's so powerful, man, because yeah, a lot of guys, it's like if they're in stage two, for example, they're like, oh, she's yelling at me. She says she hates me. She's screaming at me. She's saying all these things wrong with me. Like guy stage one's like, dude, at least she's talking to you, right?
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, that is the power of the group to get that feedback because that will kind of course correct you to do the right things, right? Instead of hold.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To see the wins where they actually exist rather
Yeah,
than getting all caught up in the fact that it's like all these songs that are just hitting my heart and making me cry,
yeah,
and
exactly.
feeling for where she's at, which that in and of itself has value, but then having it framed the right way
Yeah, yeah,
gives it
exactly.
power.
What would you say is one of the most powerful lessons that got you to where you are internally now that you learned across this?
Being able to hone my values down to like
Mm-hmm.
my top three,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really being able to label them, articulate them, being able to do that, that was actually kind of rough. I was on this crazy growth curve in the program. I was digging into all of the videos and the homework and really spending time in it,
Yeah.
really letting it break me down. But when I got to the one about values, I
Mm-hmm.
hit a wall.
Mm.
I couldn't just make myself get through it. I couldn't just dig deep and produce them. I probably floundered, I don't know if that's the right word, for about a month, not really being able to regain that momentum. I eventually started, doing more of the coursework and moving forward a little bit, but definitely not with the same momentum. But then, somewhere later on, one of the questions was to produce three values that you want in your marriage, like three boundaries, three values, and three beliefs, I think, for your marriage. And so I'm typing it out and I'm typing it out, and I get to the three values, and it's just pouring out of me, right?
Mm.
I'm writing pages of what's important to me. And I'm looking at it going, okay, that can be summed up as this value, and that can be summed up as this value, and then this definite value. And then as soon as I was done, I had this like light bulb aha moment going, oh, what I want in a relationship, I just want for me in general. Like they're the same three values. And that's when it all clicked, which
Mm.
for the record, my values are trust, empathy, and growth.
I like how two of those values are really still related to other people, right? Like the trust and the empathy. It's like connected with another person,
Yes.
right? And that's a pivotal insight. So you're saying what really made it kind of start to flow forward was when you made the mental connection between these aren't just values in the context of my relationship. They're values for my life with everyone, with myself, with other everyone, right? Not just with her.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really powerful statement and insight to have that it's not just for her. And I think and that kind of connects with the idea that we teach between being process versus outcome oriented, right? In the last group call that I talked about and how once you shift from like I'm doing this for her, I'm doing this for her, like what are the values I need to adopt to make it good with her? It's like no, they're the values for yourself, right? Exactly. So that
Yeah.
that that's brilliant, Jairus. Did
Thank
she
you.
did she test you a lot going through the stages in this journey? Did she thought any tests that you could clearly
Yeah.
identify? Okay.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you, can you,
Easily.
can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Just to wrap up what I was going to say about values really quick. Uh, the very first time she invited me over since it had been like 4 months since I'd seen her. But we were talking again a little bit. The CLCs broke that ice. When she finally invited me over to just like have a conversation,
Mhm.
that was like 3 days after I'd been able to identify my values.
Mm.
So it was very fresh of mind. So rather than writing a CLC, I had a verbal and I
Yeah.
talked her through all that. And that instantly broke us through from stage like 1, 2 to stage 3.
Mm.
And she just opened to me. She felt so safe when I was able to say, here are my values. Here's how I failed to live to them in our relationship. Here's how that failure affected you. Here's how it affected both of your sons. Here's how it affected my kids. It's not your fault. I wasn't living to my values before I met you. And that was powerful. That was powerful. That was the key pivotal moment for me individually and for us in our relationship.
I want to stay here for a second because that right there is, I don't think I have an exact name for it. The closest thing we have is extreme ownership, right?
Sure.
But it's like, it's pretty much the opposite of like that ego of like, you're her fault, not me, not me, not me. And you're like, this is about me and what I've done. Now, I'm trying to speak to you as if you were in the complete opposite domain of that. How are you able to do that and not think like, oh, I'm worthless or I'm not good enough? Because that's what stops a lot of guys from going to that place is like by admitting those things, like it's saying that I'm not good enough. How did you not step into that?
Probably because of how the course is built, starting with forgiveness. There's a lot of self-forgiveness that occurred for things I didn't know, how I was set up for failure, my own naivete, how I was raised. Um, a lot of things just not knowing any better. There was a lot of self-forgiveness and exploration there. The breath work was big,
Nice.
in the forgiveness in particular.
Yeah.
So I think that I wasn't like if I'd have jumped straight to there and leapt over all of that work, I probably would have, or resisted it because of those feelings.
It's easier said than done, right? But it's like you're not perfect. You know what I mean? You're allowed to learn even when you're 40, right? Like you're allowed to still mess up. It's like I don't know where this idea comes from that once you're like an adult that like you should have it all figured out that you should figure it out like but as you
But
know
it is internalized and it's self-imposed.
exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the last questions I like to ask guys, and you probably heard of this one, so I'm not sure if you're ready for it, but if we could go back like a year or two and you can give yourself a message, like go in a time machine, tell him something he needs to hear in that moment, what would it be?
One thing.
You can tell you can on and on now. I'm here to listen.
Well, the things that really shifted a lot of my mindset was obviously get back to your values, figure them out and get back to your values. Uh, the first books that are typically recommended in the program, No More Mr. Nice Guy, uh, Way of the Superior Man, and the Four Agreements were all essential and pivotal and really launched me in this new direction. And I think if I'd have at least had that, like get real with your values, focus on the material in these books, I probably could have saved my whole family from breaking. Oh, and one other key component, which has nothing to do with the program, but it's relevant to my story. I told you where I went to college.
Yeah,
Being with my ex-wife, I very much just stopped any practice relating to Christianity. I didn't turn my back on it, but I wasn't in it. I wasn't there. And it was very isolating in that way as well.
man. Thank you for your time, Jairus. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank
Sharing.
you. I appreciate you.
Man. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye.